It's 9 o'clock.
Yes, 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay. I will now open the meeting of the Whangamata Community Board for the month of August and call for apologies. We have an apology from Tamsin. Someone like to move the apology to be? I'll second it. Moved and seconded. All in favour? Aye. Against carried. Items on the agenda. Are there any items not on the agenda? Appears not. Does anyone have a conflict of interest?
I do with the swimming pool.
Okay, been prepared for the full discussion, which was the renewal of funding agreements. So you'll get back to that one.
I will say nothing.
We will know that. Right. So do we need to move that conflict or? Actually, that's just been declared.
It's just
Yeah. Okay, we now move to the public forum. Item 1.4. Jennifer will bring in the forum. I'm going to tell them we're already going to. Jennifer knows.
Is she? Yeah, she's out there.
She's checking to.
Just wait for the public to come in.
I'm saying, Kate, to take like this. Being here for 5 minutes. I don't. Yeah.
It's on. Yeah. Not sure it's going
Plenty. Can we sit in the gallery?
Enough things for the public.
We've got a meeting over there, and I just have to separate a little bit. So you're more than welcome to go on that side of the gallery. Gallery, welcome.
Well, welcome to the public and welcome especially to Jane as our first speaker of the public forum. So you know the rest, you've done it before, so
Thank you.
it's all yours.
I've got some handouts. Please, Jeff.
Thank you.
Right, applause all yours.
Well, good morning, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for the opportunity to address this morning. I'd like to firstly reiterate how well the long-term plan went. Yeah, great result for Whangamata all round with some of the boxes that we got ticked off. A group of us travelled over to Thames to support Terry on Deliberation Day on the 1st of June. So, yeah, that was pretty exciting. Terry's smile ended up about that wide. He definitely had a spring in his step, and his white horse held its head high on the way home. So, well done to you, Terry. Yeah, at least we forget. So just today, I'd really like to just bring you up today with the Whangamata Real Estate Community Swimming Pool. You know, in consideration that the 500,000 K, you know, was a grant that was approved to allow the overdue upgrades to the pool to be undertaken. So yeah, it really is so encouraging to build on the positivity that's taken place in and around the community pool. So, you know, different people that we've spoken to in town are just, you know, looking forward to the action starting to happen. So it's very encouraging. So, yeah, great news. So the allocation of funding is spread over 2 years with the first instalment due this week. So this allows stage 1 of the upgrade to begin. So this includes the order and delivery of the heat pumps. So we're hoping for that in sort of September, October. So yeah, we've got the work to the chlorine gas plant, which will be substantially upgraded. So that's all good news. We're currently investigating power supply to the site, which will need to be upgraded. So that cost is pending. Painting of the actual pool, the bottom and sides are planned for March and April in 2022. So this will allow a full season to take place beforehand. We've obtained a Lion Foundation grant of 40K, which is a significant contribution towards the purchase of the new thermal pool cover reel. So yeah, well done on that one. The Whangamata Club grant helps assist with the purchase of an automatic pool cover retraction system and a new drinking fountain. So everybody's climbing on board with support. Local painters Buff Bolland, has offered to paint the exterior areas, including the roof, as well as block work of the interior of the complex at no cost. It will also include the paint. Jeremy Burton has agreed to assist painting of the office as well as the male and female changing rooms. Awesome. Bunnings has agreed to supply the paint at no cost and offered to provide labour to assist with painting if required. So great news there. The existing pool office reception has been cleared and a new floor plan designed. This will include purpose-built storage units and bench tops, so it's going to look flash. A new reception sliding window has been installed, which greatly brightens the office, thanks to First Windows, who provided the window at cost, and Total Works Carpentry, who helped install it. So everybody's getting on board. Great. Whangamata Woodworks are assisting with the construction of the cupboard units for the office at no charge. Bunnings stepped up again and generously donated materials for this work. So we're getting everybody involved. The team from Menshed, with the assistance of Gary Clarkson contractors, have removed a great deal of the shrubbery and vegetation from both inside and outside the pool boundaries. Already the pool looks so much better, thanks to all concerned. So once again, Gary Clarkson donated his time at no cost. Applications have been lodged with relevant funding organisations to enable the necessary refurbishment of the male and female toilets changing rooms to take place. This includes new toilet pans, cisterns, partitions, vanities and heating. This value is in the region of 40K. So everybody's been working very proactively. Last year, every motel in town was canvassed to ascertain the importance of heating the pool and possibly all year round usage. They all agreed that an opportunity to attract trade would be welcomed and offered support with promotion of the pool. So we see this as an opportunity to attract custom, not only locally, but you know, from outside our district. You know, people that want a weekend away and they know that there's a hot pool there, they don't need much motivation to, you know, to have a change of scene. So our intention and vision for the pool complex is to be a place not only to exercise, but a place of regular recreational and social activity. We want it to be a hub at that end of town so that people can meet with friends and enjoy the facility in its upgrade.
Thank you, Graham. That's exciting news there, and good to see the business of all getting behind it.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Yeah, really positive if I can through the chair. Yeah, great news to see that you're looking for support in that. Just, can you tell me what happened to the automatic pool cover retraction system? What are you going to do with that? You're going to biff it?
The old one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, we had a little bit of work done on the ladder to the pool, and that engineer understood that we were going to send the existing reel and pool cover to the scrapyard, and he knew a friend who was a farmer, so that's now been taken away to a farm, and he's using that to cover silage. So.
Been recycled.
Well done. Ellen will give you the tip for that.
Thank you, Graham.
Thank you. Thank you.
So next we have Andy Warnford.
Sure.
Right.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity to have a chat this morning. Very quickly, a bit about myself. I'm a contract ecologist. Work with lots of Department of Conservation, Land Care Research, Auckland Regional Council, Royal Forest and Bird Society. I've spoken locally to the Whangamata Harbour Care Group. And I guess really my job here today is to provide a little bit of context and background where I think the community appetite and passion, if you like, for local conservation workers and looking after our local taonga and biodiversity. So Christina has an event she wants to talk about. I just want to provide a little bit of background and context where I sort of see things are at from an ecologist's point of view. So about 7 or 8 years ago, I was a doctoral ranger out at a poultry, and the local community there very much wanted to know what the main threats were to that species and what they could do to assist. And so they came on board, in simple terms, with helping do pest control and manage things like dog control and so on for the doctoral in that local space. And as a little bit of an as a bit of an anecdote of what happened in that area, there was known to be about 14 or so parked up residents in that area, along with 20 or 30 doctoral. And ornithologists carried out a survey of kaka in that area about 2 years ago and put their numbers at between 80 and 100. And that sort of shows how a small amount of work, if you like, a small change can make a massive difference. And that's pretty common in ecology. So about that time, 5 or 6 years ago, I started discussions with the local owners of the islands out here in front of Whangamata, Uru-Nawera, and sort of said, look, I've sort of been in this place for about 40 odd years here in Whitianga. We've always been sort of almost in awe of the beauty and I think the opportunity for preservation of New Zealand's taonga and our biodiversity in places like this. And could I do something, with you to help preserve the islands and protect the wildlife that lives there, and maybe even bring things back? That discussion went on for about 5 years. 4 years anyway, until about 18 months ago, some friends of mine, some colleagues of mine turned up here, and all of a sudden, after being given the green light, we had those 4 islands out there pest-free. So they're actually New Zealand's 4 newest pest-free islands, the Tanuiti Island group. So kicking on from that, I've started a river care group up here in the Otago Estuary, and to be honest with you, I've been a little bit blown away at how that group and the neighbours have all come together there, and people within the community have jumped on board. I think we've got about 400 members on our online page, and you're actually jumping in and doing the sort of nuts and bolts work on the coal face that's been needed there to do some really good ecology rehabilitation. And so we've planted about 16,000 trees up there and doing quite a lot of pest control. We've restored an oxbow, and we're doing water testing and so on to measure change over time. I think that will become evident over time, but at the very least, it's got people out there engaged in sort of community conservation work, which is great from my perspective. So where does this sort of tie with what Christina's doing? So what I've discovered recently is there seems to be a huge groundswell of support for the idea of marine conservation, and I think around the local mau fishery thing that went on recently, and perhaps on the back of what people have seen at Goat Island, up at Lee there, and other marine areas like out of Tahua or Mere Island. People are saying, well, could we have something like that here? And they had a meeting up at Whitianga recently, but I think they were hoping about 30 or 40 people would go to, whatever it was, and ended up about 400 standing outside. So it's sort of an indicator of like a sort of green wave of renaissance that we're riding at the moment around conservation. And I guess it's topical worldwide at the moment, what's happening with the environment and climate change and things like this. So this event really is about providing people to have an opportunity to have the korero, if you like, from Whirianga, Tairua and Whangamata, to turn up and say what it is we would want to have. You know, it's not for us to say that we should have this or shouldn't have that. It's about giving people the opportunity to turn up and say, well, actually, we don't want a marine reserve maybe because it's going to stop me fishing there, or maybe we want to have a marine reserve because it'll enhance the fishery anywhere I go fishing. So it's about giving people that opportunity really to talk about what might come from that, along with benefits for tourism and, you know, potential other benefits for the community. So that's pretty much where I come from, and I'm a senior ecologist, if you like. And always happy to answer questions if anybody's got those before or after, during any of these discussions. I'm not a marine ecologist, but I'm well versed enough in that area for this purpose.
Thank you. Any questions for Andy?
Oh, good. Okay. Thank you.
Part two.
You might have some after I talk.
Welcome, Christine.
Thank you. I'm Christina McGrath. I've been in the community for a while and I do a lot of wellness work. But today I wanted to talk about ocean protection. So recently, this kind of, just to let you know a little bit, this is a brainchild of I've been working on for the last year or so. And it involves my love for the ocean. Recently, I've been doing a lot of art that inspires ocean awareness. And what I wanted to do was to do an art event that not only encompassed ocean art and inspired people to love the ocean more, but actually people came away with more of a love for the ocean and action items to do something about, like how we can protect the ocean. So with the huge success of the winter mingle that we had the other day, I thought coming together not only for an art event, but art-inspired ocean event along with sounds and along with a ocean-inspired and ocean protection push and involving community awareness. So I really wanted to get some community awareness of what started in Whirianga. And I don't know if a lot of you have heard of that, but there's the Marine Reserve and ocean protection. And it's interesting because ocean protection is really just taking care and letting something be, and more awareness on what we can do in the ocean itself right now as where it stands and what we can do in order to enhance and also enhance our community, come together as a community, support the environment. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to put together an event that encompasses all of those things, get the community involved, like Andy said, get the community aware of what's going on, aware of what we can do as a community, and also have, I think it's really cool that Whirianga has already started. So we're not reinventing the wheel, yay! So, so they've already started, we can take that momentum, and that's why it's really timely. I thought it was really great to actually, we just had the art event, Whirianga has just had this huge event that they had more impact than they ever thought they would have. And so we had this talk about how we can protect the ocean all along the Coromandel. So from Tairua and Whangamata jumping on what Whirianga has already learned, and then just creating basically just community awareness and a community around the support of what we love so much. And so basically, support for ocean conservation, community awareness, starting with this event. So it'd be one event that I'm planning in September around art, sounds, and ocean protection. It would encompass, if you will, a lot like that mingle, which I saw a lot of you guys there. So it'd be ocean-inspired art, sounds, and then it would be a free talk for everybody. Evan, who spoke at the Whirianga event, he would talk about the Marine Reserve, how that works. Everybody would get a good idea of what it involves. So I really wanted to, what I'm asking for basically from you is to maybe some help with advertising, support. It's amazing that I can actually talk to you about this first, because I feel like you are the heart of our community. So really having you on board with something that provides community awareness, support, and our ocean environment would be great. So I'm looking for just consideration to kickstart this program, which would involve advertising of the event and basically print and newspaper. I know we can do some radio, and then also possibly for upcoming events as well. So I see this as being an event to kind of spark the interest and go from what Whirianga had, And then also just creating community all along the Coromandel, starting probably in Tyro with this first event, so we can get Whittianga and Whangamata involved, and then having another event and follow-up events in Whangamata and around Coromandel. So that is basically what I like. And I'd like to talk about your art on the wall, which is lovely. I looked at that, I was like, oh my God, that's like everything that we're talking about. So you can just look at that and be like, that's what we're saving. So, yes, sir.
Question?
Yeah, quite, ask question.
When would you envisage?
So interesting, when I was at the art event, I just started talking about this idea I had. And recently I've put together a date of September 12th would be the event at the Tyroa Fishing Club, tentatively. And I would like a follow-up event with people who are interested in the Whangamata and Tyroa and Whittianga community to get together as kind of a workshop or, community support on what this actually involves. And then I did propose, and you guys probably might have heard, I think I applied for a major grant for a big event like this in Whangamata in February. And it's a 3-day event with art, ocean awareness, and well-being. I'm very big on, if we're well as a community, then we can protect our oceans a lot better as well. So anyway, that's the first.
Lots of energy. Well,
I know.
Is this an inside thing, like a hall thing, or is it the display outside?
So it'd be in the Tyroa Fishing Club. It'd be very similar to the Mingle. So it'd be ocean inspired art inside the fishing club, and then kind of the sounds and event during the day, and then it'd all be during the day, and then about 3 o'clock we'd have definitely a free event where Evan would talk about ocean conservation, the impact we can have. Just what it encompasses, the state of the oceans, and what we can do as a community to keep everything beautiful here, because that's why we all are here, and that's why people come here as well. And Andy didn't mention, but there's a lot of representations in New Zealand, and we are being looked at a lot right now for what we're doing worldwide. So I feel like.
No, is it conceptual at the moment? Have you got some sort of business, a plan or a budget, or have you got any idea what? Is it really in the head?
No, it's actually going ahead. It's going to be basically an event like the artists will be having their ocean inspired work, talking about their work, kind of a little bit of a happy hour sounds, and then it'd all be around ocean protection. And then at 3 o'clock, we would have a talk about how we can personally protect the ocean or make steps in order to what we can have on the impact of the community awareness. So the event logistically is from like 12 to 4. We'd have a little bit of community awareness support around and inspiration. I really want to get people together just as almost like an ocean kind of festival, or not festival, but inspire ocean. Huh?
Have you done an estimated?
An estimated cost, we were just talking, so based on what I was talking about with Graham, advertising probably, $250 for a quarter-page ad and things like that. So, and printing, maybe and then a little bit of time, possibly the rental thing. So maybe around $1,500 or something like that for a kickstart. So that's pretty much what I'd love consideration for. But I'm really obviously passionate about it, so. I'm probably gonna go for it, but I just am so excited to talk, because I do feel like you as a community are looking out for us. So it's great to talk to you about it first and be like, oh, I knew about that event, or you were a part of it, or you could have consideration too.
Have you had discussions with the Hauraki Gold Forum in terms of?
No, not yet. I do discuss quite a lot regarding conservation in general with them, but not with regards to this particular event.
What about Tyroa ratepayers? Have you spoken to them?
You're the first people that we've talked to, but that would be obviously something that would be this, right along second, what I do, second thing to come out. So.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Graham Henson, Manson, sorry. Mr. in the handwriting, get the glasses on.
Thanks very much. That's a hard act to follow, eh? Well, good morning, everybody, and thanks for the opportunity. On behalf of Whangamata Ratepayers Association, Whangamata residents and ratepayers, I would like to request from you, the Whangamata Community Board and its elected members, your position on the proposed Three Waters reform that is currently being driven through central government. Specifically, we'd like to know what TCDC's position is on the overall proposals and what is intended in the process of soliciting feedback and direction from our ratepayer stakeholders. The broad feedback that we've had from kindred ratepayers associations on the East Coast is that there is a fairly high level of discontent about what is out there currently and how that government proposal is going to be processed, and that the speed with which it's being driven is of a major concern to ratepayers, and the long-term contentious issue regarding ownership of what is essentially a free commodity, and that is water. So we would just like feedback from you, the Community Board, and TCDC as to the position and what we can do to assist to facilitate the best outcome for our stakeholders. Essentially, that was the key point. The second point is that you kindly sort of indicated to a previous question in regard to street lighting in town, and it was indicated that within the plan there was a budget of some $40,000, what we assume is an annual basis. We would like to ask the question of a little bit more detail as to what that 40,000 actually gets us in terms of maintenance or new street lighting. There is an ongoing issue with that in terms of residents who literally have no street lighting at all. But if that could be addressed and somebody could come back to us, that would be appreciated.
Thank you, Graham. No, we can't discuss the Three Waters. As a board, we haven't actually had any discussion on it at all. But there will be a process the council will go through with that.
Right.
And then that will be the avenue where they'll be making the decisions going forward. But we'll certainly pass this on, your questions on to the council. And please, further discussion will be happening over the next, I think it's the next 8 weeks. And on the second one, there is a budget for street lighting, and the board hasn't had the process of prioritising where they will go yet.
Right.
We are aware of feedback we've had from community as to some of the dark spots around town. There's a budget every year. We allocate as much as we can each year to get the maximum lightage around town. And that process is a process we'll be going through.
Okay.
So that's all I can say at this stage.
Thank you. If you've got an issue where it's a street light, please jot it and bring it to us, because we don't know everything. So if you've got an issue, let us know. Yeah, and if I can just comment on the Three Waters, there's a workshop at council on the 24th this month. After that, there'll be some information coming out and where they sit with it and where we think we should go with it. But yeah, there's plenty of concern.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Graham. Rob, sorry.
Something. I've got it on my phone and it's there.
No, sorry, we've got a process. If you want to speak at the end of the public forum, you can. Okay, Rob, you're next.
Good morning. I'm just here to give members of the Community Board and the Council a bit of an update as to where we are with the 101 Lindsay Road Working Group. We've established 10 members. The list is here. There's quite a wide variety of people and backgrounds, and we've tried to be as broad as we possibly can. We have 10 people at the moment. We're open to more representation. We're looking for as much representation and diversity as we can get. We recently, at our last meeting, we took on board Greg Amos, who's well known throughout town. He's involved with the Drama Society and he's very keen to get involved with youth. And Robin Guernsey, who's in the Information Centre, who came along and immediately put a hand up to get involved with communications, social media and so on. So she was welcomed very quickly. Immediate identified tasks, we had several. We just looked at our intentions and vision, our keenness to unite the community on this project, being inclusive, set up a draft set of guiding principles, which are very basic, but we wanted some document from day one that we could refer to and develop as we went along. We've discussed process, and we now have a process which we think is working pretty well. We've got a process as how to progress and move forward without taking too big a steps backwards. We have a policy on our media, and we're looking to develop better media strategies as we progress. We are very keen on that site to accommodate as many activities as possible, and we identified cultural, educational, social and environmental, and there will be others as we progress. We've divided the group into four, and the four groups identify with each of the particular community aspects. So the community marae is looking with iwi and hapu. We've got Peter Priest and Ty Pana, who are chairing and running those meetings, and they've had meetings with local Maori just the last 2 or 3 weeks. The community hub, which is a wide range of clubs and activities, going from Lions right through to Drama Society. We're hoping to get the senior net people involved, and Graham Smith and Greg Amos are chairing that little group, and they coordinate what needs to be done. Jenny Abenett from the Community Support from the Community Trust, who's on the board. She's come on board with our working group, looking at the Community Trust aspect. And Helen McCabe, obviously, with the Community Recycling, the Resource Recovery Centre. So those four groups are working within their own little spheres, and then we come together for the working group, and that's how we put this together. We had an agreement that any media would be just made through 1 or 2 people, so we didn't get misinformation out there, and we do start with media. We meet fortnightly. We've had 3 meetings to date. Progress, we met with representatives of all groups, with representation of each of the working groups. We're coordinating each group to achieve milestones, which we've established and set up. On the 19th, we're meeting with Mary Wilson of Internal Affairs to discuss the use of land, how it works through the marae process, and how we can possibly gazette that land. That's a very important part of the process. We're planning a meeting with Sarah Gibbs from the community of Waikato to discuss how we would set up an incorporated society or charity and how we'll go about it. We've established a milestone document, which is working pretty well. We're working towards confirmation of a name for this project. That will take a little bit more effort and dialogue to get that underway. We're planning a suitable media release to engage the community. We're looking to establish suitable methodology to engage fully with TCDC. One of the issues will be identifying how you would use non-reserved land for community use. We need to follow through on that. How the TCDC can help us with media and promotion. We're seeking to engage as many community organisations as possible, certainly business, youth, families and seniors. They come together quite well. We've started drafting a business plan. We just looked at that in a rough format at this stage. And next week, we're planning to meet the TCDC liaison officer with the Marae group to identify how we progress through the Coromandel area. So we're making progress. If there's any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Thank you, Rob. You made great progress given it's only sort of 6 weeks into the financial year. So getting those groups together and meeting 3 times already is well done. So questions?
Very, very great progress.
Okay, we'll be back again.
I'm sure you'll be back.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ross. Next we have Helen McCabe. Welcome, Helen.
Hello. Just a update really from the Whangamata Resource Recovery Trust of what we're doing now. We're working on the concept for the resource recovery activities at the transfer station. We're working with the new manager, Barry Bergen. We also have the group work with the centre at 101 Lindsay Road with the group, as Ron has mentioned. Which is fantastic to see so many positive people on the same page. We have participation in, we hope, we expect in the reviewed TCDC waste management strategy, which is about to launch once they've approved that consultant apparently. And we're hoping to continue to introduce new waste reduction initiatives around town, around reusing packaging, clean packaging. We're working on our food bottle system, which was ramping up. And we have an e-waste day planned for hopefully around September, October.
Okay.
This is an update of where we're at now.
And just on that e-waste one, I know there are a lot of people ask questions where they get rid of the old tabby or whatever. So where is that going to happen?
Well, every day you can go to Bhutan IT,
Yeah.
because they do take stuff with the plug and they process it through, but on a big level, we thought a drive would be a good thing to just like ferret out everything sitting in people's garages and cupboards. So it will be probably, we expect to bring in several pallet loads and then take it through the Thames Seagull Centre, who have a destination for process of breaking down all the goods into useful.
Will that be a self-funding exercise?
Yeah, more in collaboration with the Thames Seagull Centre. We have got some money there for small costs, so we'll see how that first one goes and then look at applying to probably waste minimisation funds to extend that and other waste reduction activities.
Questions?
Yeah, it was interesting to know at the Olympics they made the medals out of reclaimed electronic equipment. So there is a value in those.
Reclaimed gold.
Yeah, full of gold. They use a lot of gold and special rare minerals in the electronic equipment. Could you give us an update on the food recovery system?
Well, we've done a number of talks with groups so far, and we are up to buying some more bottles. We've got about 6 swap locations. There's really good enthusiasm from people who are trying it out. It's a simple, quick and easy and effective way of reducing the capacity of their blue bag. In fact, many people have mentioned they're down to having half bag or every 2 weeks bag. It's already having an impact in that people are very pleased with how it's working.
Right. And resources for that, are you?
Well, because this is just a trial. We intend for it to go towards letting the council know that in the waste management strategy, a food waste recovery is imperative and that work is done on that. So this is a trial to whet people's appetite and show them just how much they can help feeding compost, worm bins and keeping it out of the waste stream.
And that's huge, that reduction to landfill. So, really support this. Council can support you too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, Helen, you know that e-waste one?
Yeah.
Will you be having a small charge for that? Which would be
Yes, we will, towards our trust.
Yeah.
And there'll be a small charge, but a big impact, we hope. So
That's cool.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Helen.
Thank you.
Yes.
Kathleen, did you want to say something?
I was just saying, I've got that free water thing. And it says no consultation from it says there will be no community consultation on the proposals, despite the Local Government Act requiring councils to consult, but there'll be no community consultation on the proposal.
Where did you get that from?
I got that sent to me on Messenger. You can question that to me if you like, if you think it's not.
Yeah, I would question that because the discussions in the workshop will be about, do we want to do consultation? I don't think that's
I
correct.
don't think it's true.
So what's the source of that?
Just someone from our trust. sent
Okay,
it to
thank
me.
you. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's just why I questioned myself.
okay, thank you.
Okay, so that's the public forum. So would someone like to move?
I'll move that.
Okay, everybody, all those in favour? Aye. Thank you very much, public, for your contribution. Excellent. Okay, now we're moving through the agenda to minutes for confirmation. Item 5. The minutes have been circulated.
Yeah, I'm so moved. I've got a couple of points to raise, but
I'll second by Kay. Before I put it, you want to make some?
Yeah.
comments?
just first of all is point 3, 3.1, resolve point 2. Defer the decision until the next meeting pending receipt of further information about the lease. Is that going to be coming up in today's meeting?
Yes, it is.
Which one will we back?
The Whangamata Combined Sports Centre.
Is that the item on the agenda?
It's an item on the agenda.
Yeah.
And the other one is the report on the Whangamata Reserve Management Plan. Sorry, let's get that right.
4.1.
Yeah, 4.1. We're having that discussion today as well, aren't we?
We are, yes.
Yeah. Let's get this last one. The boardwalk project decisions from the Department of Conservation hearing process will be expected to be completed by the end of July or early August. Is there any update on that?
That comes up in the works program.
Coming up with this
Yeah.
Okay, all good.
We can do the answer to those. Okay, so we moved and seconded, no further comments. So I'll put that, all those in favour? Aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Now we'll move on to the item peak summer period, item 2.1. We have the report there. Before we move something, I'll just open it up for discussion. And I'll just kick that off by saying that based on what's happened previously, the fact that they're there to protect the council assets, not to, for general community enforcement, that's the job of the police. I would like to suggest that we go for 2 nights security and that the 2 nights have 10 guards each, so that would be a reduction in the budget that's there. I don't know what that would be in terms of dollar amounts, but start to calculate that out. So I'd like to move, sorry, I'll open that for discussion, so what do others think about that?
I think we need to just stick with the 10. We can't see a reason to go to the 15.
And for the 30th and 31st?
Yeah, just the.
I'm happy to move that.
Okay, so we'll, okay, well, Patty, you want to move that item 2 be amended for 2 nights rather than 3?
And only 10 guards.
And for 10 guards each night.
Can I add some to that resolution? That we,
I'm sure you can.
yeah, we'll ask the question, but I'll just open it up. That we discuss or engage with the police and ask them to encourage their presence around the park during the day and the night periods as
Mobile, foot patrol.
foot patrols, that's the right word, yes.
That we
Encourage them to.
encourage them to have their presence there over the evening.
Not just in the car.
Yeah. Okay.
You happy to have that included?
Exactly.
And do you want to second all that, Terry?
Why not?
They've got to get out of the
No, we'll encourage.
But they did say they would. Yeah.
We can't direct, we're.
No. We can encourage them.
And perhaps we could have some of the security guards on their guitar and those that can sing, that would be very helpful.
That's right. Well, there's evidence that we can bring one in.
Nothing wrong with
Just before we move it, I think, has the police offered to come along and engage with the community board over this for this year? We did have the last year, I know that JK came along, he didn't tell us anything, but he was coming. But they did come along and say that they were part of that discussion.
Well, they probably will come along closer to the time when they know what what their resourcing and stuff is.
We would encourage that if it can be done.
Okay, if they are able to come to a discussion, it'll be good.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'd like to add Inspector Dan Anderson to replace JK after that.
Yes.
And he's, I'm pretty, I'd say he'd be more than happy to come.
Good.
Just
Yeah.
all I can about it. And-
we had that perhaps that November.
Yeah.
Okay, right, it's on the action schedule, so we'll get it. Okay, we've had the amendments moved by Kay and seconded by Terry. So we're going for 2 nights and 10 guards, and we're also going to encourage the police presence on the park area. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. And Eileen, if you can do some calculations of what that might mean in the budget, what might be left over, that there should be some money we can use for something else, like the next item.
Well, not that great at calculating.
No. So we have a report here which says that in terms of the SLAs, that we currently have a budget which has 18,000 that hasn't been allocated to any community groups. And there's suggested organisations, the swimming pool, the community patrol, the New Year's Eve security, 20,000, well, we're going to trim that back down. Mountain bike, the multi-sport club with the mountain bike park also suggested. So open up for suggestions as how we might want to allocate that.
Can I just say I attended the community board meeting the other day, the community patrol meeting, and the only thing really that they were requesting is some assistance for $375 for a GPS unit for their car, and that's the price. They've got $375. But
Is that through the community grants, or is it how have they put a request in?
well, there is a request coming through.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
But did they apply for a community grant for it though?
Sorry,
Have they applied for the community grants?
I understand they're preparing it, so
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, we'll consider that.
Yeah, we'll plan.
Thank you.
Well, we won't be judging our decision there, Terry.
But I will support that.
Okay, we'll give that due consideration.
I'd just like to, through the chair, talk about the mountain bike club. Is that the right word? Multi-sport club. They made a very good submission to the long-term plan, and it was heard and it was recorded. Unfortunately, they never put a dollar figure in there because he wasn't, Blake was unsure about how the funding models went at that time, so he was a little bit ignorant of that, which he apologises for. But I think this is a great project for Whangamata going forward. We've got $250,000 working on a cycle track out to this park. They've funded really hard through their channels and got a digger, and now they want support on maintaining their tracks. And I would like to think that we would propose that we would set up an SLA for, say, $10,000 a year to support this very good opportunity for economical growth in town. I think it's a fantastic way to bring people into town. And if you look at just the recent adventure park thing, how many people are in that?
About 900.
900, yeah. So it's amazing what money comes into town out of these events. So
Every cafe was full on Sunday morning.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I'd support that too.
It's probably all right.
So you're suggesting 10,000 an SLA is developed for the maintenance of the track.
yes.
I'll second.
Yeah. Okay. Now, the balance, well, there's 8, but I think we've probably made some savings with the security budget for the park. I would like to suggest that the savings we've made from the security plus the balance of the 8,000 be allocated as a one-off payment for this year for the Whangamata Community Pool, because they're going to be finding, they'd already flagged earlier in the year that with various things such as the increase in the minimum wage, etc., and the increased heating, they're going to be facing increased operational costs. And that's something I think we need to also address longer term, perhaps through the annual plan process going forward, because if they are operating 12 months of the year, it's going to be considerable increase in the operating budget, but we need to have the figures for that one calculated out. So my suggestion is that the balance of funds available, including those from the security, go to the swimming pool as a one-off payment.
Yep, I support that.
I'll move that and seconded by Harry. We'll leave the actual figures to be worked out. We don't need them now, but yeah.
Can I ask, just through that discussion, to get into the long-term plan, does it have to be by November that these things are discussed?
Annual plan.
Annual plan, sorry. Is it November?
I think it is, isn't it? October. I'm not quite sure. I haven't done an annual plan process before.
I think it's quite
It's starting, I'm sure it starts
before Christmas, yes.
but I can come back to the board and let them know.
So if we could have our next meeting, have that item brought up, because we'll need to make a recommendation through the council. So next meeting, if we can have an item, OPEX costs for the community pool going forward, in light of the $500,000 refurbishment. And
Okay, so with the resolution, do you want to go through each of those items or do you want to do it as a, I mean, you've done number 5 as 10K, here in Garrison, so the pool, you've got Ken and Terry's doing that, and we'll reword that to say the savings plus the 8K remaining.
Yeah.
So you still agree with the community patrol? Do you want to do a?
No, we'll leave that.
Oh, we could do that now for the $300 if that's.
No, community grants.
But you need to, you need to have a.
No, we confirmed the 5,000.
Yeah, but we need to have it written down.
Yeah, you need to, if you're going to do those ones all separately,
Because it's
you're
an
going to do the
SLA.
whole thing as one.
We'll do the whole thing as one.
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't need the 300 for the GPS unit.
No, because they put it in for community grant.
Yeah.
So we'll reword resolution 2, number 2.
Number 2 and number 4 will need to be reworded to.
And we'll be putting number 5 to say approves $10,000.
$10,000.
For a funding agreement, $10,000 for the 3 years.
Yeah. Number 2 will be a 35,000. We'll keep the SLA at that for now, plus a one-off payment of the balance. And then we'll address the SLA going forward through the annual plan process.
Yeah, we'll reword that. And then, so number 6, we need to take out.
Take that out because the multi-sport have picked that up. Everyone happy to understand that? It's clear as mud.
It is. I think we need to also discuss this with the pool, because this 500, you hear the work they're going on there, the money they're getting on the side, they're doing it all up, they're spending a lot of time and effort on it. And we've got a $500,000 investment there, and they've got to now have an OPEX budget to try and get it through. So it's going to struggle with this year, and we're supporting this best we can, but we need to think about that.
But next year, what is it going to look like? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that we'll need to get on them fairly quickly to work through those figures.
Yeah.
And bring that back, because we need to then make a recommendation through the council for the annual plan.
Yeah. Okay.
So Ken and Terry, moving and seconding the whole resolution.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Kay hasn't expressed an interest of an opinion in this one.
No, she does. Conflict. She had this now.
I want to stay a lot.
Okay, I'll put that, all those in favour? It's carried. Thanks, guys.
I don't know if technically you are in conflict. Because you may not perhaps vote, but you have information that could be helpful. I've looked through the law on this.
Yeah, it's pretty hazy, especially
no conflict, so we accept it.
Okay.
You'd rather I said nothing.
You've got a conflict on all over UK. Okay, the next one is the lease for the combined, obviously the squash and tennis portion of it.
I've got enough water on the line.
Okay, Nicole.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Has anyone got any questions of Nicole? Okay.
Nicole, I just want to know what can be done about the toilets with this combined sports centre. The tennis have locked the.
Okay, has this got anything to do with the lease?
This is the lease because they're charging the croquet club for rates and stuff, but they cannot use the toilets. So is that part of this lease? What I want to know is surely the building as a combined sports identity should encompass those that are written down as the combined sports, not just the tennis and the squash.
It actually just pertains to, sorry, it actually just pertains to the tennis and squash club. That is the combined sports.
She's gone.
But that's not right.
You've got to, you somehow cut yourself off.
Sorry about that.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're better now.
I'm again, I can see.
She press on mute somehow.
Right. Sorry, did you get any of what I said there or
No.
nothing? Not
No.
a thing. Okay. The combined sports centre actually is the tennis and squash club. It is not a part of the other two leases that are on that block of land. So this is just specific to the combined sports centre, which is the tennis and squash itself.
But what we're trying to find out here is the original lease for that whole, it's not the grounds, it's the building. It is a combined sports building. So what we're trying to ascertain is the right of the tennis and squash to now lock the croquet club out of the toilets when it is combined sports from way back. The croquet club were the originals with the bowling and the netball and the rugby and the tennis. Now we have the tennis and the squash coming under the heading of combined sports centre and saying they own the building. And we're trying to ascertain how that has come about.
Nicole?
Yes.
Could you put in the lease? Could you put in a lease that allows the toilets to be used by other groups other than those two? Is the question we're asking, really. Can it be made in a lease that the toilets are multi-usable as opposed to only those who fall under the lease?
Because my understanding, Nicole, of the lease, each separate lease, is the bowling club have their land, the croquet have their land, and the tennis and squash have the court and the squash thing. Now, the toilets should be under the lease of the Whangamata Combined Sports Club. It should not be tennis and squash only. That building was built by the community for the Combined Sports Club.
Can I just ask a question here?
So I'm trying to work it out.
Nicole, the lease is for the land, isn't it? Is that what the agreement is between, for $350 a year, we're leasing the land to the club? Is that correct? Essentially?
Well, it does talk of premises and buildings.
No thoughts of the building, and that is the contentious issue.
If you can get this understand, Nicole, is that this has caused a bit of concern between the two clubs, and now the croquet club's looking to spend $30,000 to have a toilet. Would it be, is there an easy way through this? That's what we're asking.
But the squash club was there before the tennis club and the croquet club. That's one of the.
Croquet club was there first.
Yeah, the croquet club was there before the tennis club and the squash club, and all of a sudden they seem to have been cut out of this. But they are included on that name.
we're not disputing the ground, you know, the tennis courts, that's fine, and the squash courts. What we are just trying to find our way around the fact that they have changed the lock on the toilets so that only tennis and squash can use those toilets. Now, the Croquet Club are having to look at getting toilet for 30-something thousand. They don't have this kind of money. And there's no reason they should be even trying to get their own toilet when there's a perfectly good toilet in the building belonging to the Whangamata Combined Sports Club. There has to be something in this lease that says the toilets are for all sports to use.
Well, I know it mentions the building, but as far as I can see, the lease that we're leasing the land, it mentions that the buildings have to be maintained and removed at the end of the lease, etc. But we're not leasing the buildings to them.
Yeah,
we're leasing.
We can understand that.
But I don't think you understand the line of the question. Did Ed Varley want us to make a comment? He put his hand up. He's gone.
No. If I may, through the chair, if you look at the lease section 8 under use, it says the lessee shall use the premises for the purpose of providing recreation and enjoyment to the Whangamata community.
Yeah, that's right. So how come tennis and squash are allowed to change the locks on the toilet so only their members can use it? Can you tell me how they can get away with that?
I regret I wouldn't be able to tell you that, but
nobody seems to be able to tell us that.
Mr. Chairman, can I come in, please?
Hello, John. Welcome.
Hello, Ken. Hello, members of the board. Look, this is just going around in circles a little bit. So we have 3 leases over that whole block of land in Rutherford Street there. You've got 2 former clubs that have combined themselves to form what they have now called a combined sports club. So they each have their own buildings. Obviously, over years, there's been a gentleman's arrangement between the clubs for people like the Croquet Club to share the toilets that the tennis have got. But the leases don't refer to any obligation on any party to provide toilets to any other party. So this is a breakdown between the Croquet Club and the combined club about the use of those toilets. But there's nothing in the lease that we can force any issue with anybody on that. The only thing people can do is in terms of the lease is by variation, by agreement between the parties. And clearly at the moment there is ill feeling between the combined club and the Croquet Club regarding toilets.
Do we hear
That's
that,
not something
John?
the board is going to resolve through the lease.
To build some more tennis courts. So there is a bit of angst going on here. They're also just going to get a bill for $2,858 for the rates they're going to pay on that combined sports club. So wouldn't you think there's some common sense here that needs to be discussed before we sign a lease that says they can shut people out? It just seems that we've got a party fighting each other, no one's standing up and saying, can we work this out?
Yeah, look, Terry, this is a matter between the 2 of them. In terms of the lease, what's before the council is to approve the renewal of a lease that they already have. The club is not in breach in any way of its obligations under that lease. So the council doesn't have the right to turn around and say, no, we're not going to renew your lease because we don't now agree with arrangement about toilets. You can't do that.
Agree, you can't do that, but you can hold on while we try and make some sense of it.
I have a second. Section 24 talks about dispute resolution, and the council and the leaser on the leasee should be first in position to negotiate or have this mediation and whatever. There are provisions there, and I would think that this cries out for some resolution.
The thing is, John, can I just make a point here that until 2 years ago, everything worked perfectly. Right? They got a new president and then all of a sudden everything changed. Now, what we're trying to ascertain here, that building was not actually just built for the tennis and the squash. It was built by the community for the community.
Look, I'm going to make a ruling here. We're having a discussion which is really outside what the resolution is, which is to renew this lease. If we want to continue that debate elsewhere, that's fine. But in terms of we've renewed the other leases, we've got to renew this lease. The advisors, we don't have grounds not to renew it. I'm going to put that motion and we can take the debate elsewhere. So anyone like to second that?
Not me.
No, I'm not seconding.
I'll second it, but there is a provision under section 24, which I think needs to be looked at.
I refuse to second it. No, I'm not saying.
Okay, no.
So you think they should negotiate before they sign the lease or after?
No, that's at any stage during a lease.
Any stage.
So I think that needs to be done.
That's the
And the provision to set out, it's all spelled out and video needs to be mediation and everything. And I think we have an obligation to make that process happen.
It's been harmonious for years.
John, do you want to add something to that?
Please, Mr. Chairman. Look, the mediation disputes provision of the lease is where there is an issue in terms of the wording of the lease. There is no dispute around the wording of the lease. What you're talking about is another club getting access to a building that's really between them. It's not a matter for the lease as it is.
I disagree with you. I disagree. It doesn't, what you said is not there. I can tell you, and it spells it out. So I think we need to sit down and get this done, and maybe Alice and Mark can have a chat to us.
Okay, we can have those debates later, but if we've had it moved and seconded, and what's on the order paper, I'll move that. All those in favour? Aye. Against?
Aye. Me.
Carried. Okay, moving on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can't just do that.
Well,
there's some more stuff that should be discussed there.
It's been moved and carried.
Yeah, but you didn't ask who those abstained.
If you're abstaining, abstained.
Oh, can I have it recorded, please?
You can have your abstention recorded, please.
Yeah. And Dave?
So
It's been carried by the voices. We've had abstentions recorded for Terry and myself.
And
that would be, if we do the two, that's 3 against 2.
It's not the carry.
Two aren't voting.
They didn't vote against it.
We didn't vote against it, we abstained.
They abstained. Okay, moving on. Thank you.
It's crazy. It's moving on, but it's $30,000.
It's pathetic.
People having a attitude.
One person.
Sure, no, but that's why I say this, we have to be.
Yeah, and I'm listening out there.
Needs to get this.
Yeah, I'm not saying the problem's gone away, but by not signing the lease wasn't going to make it go away either.
No, but they need to be on note that it is not the community thing to be doing what they're doing.
Okay. I understand that, but.
Yeah, we've moved on to the parks budget. Eric.
Morena.
Good morning.
So we have your report here, and looks like there's a lot of budget for generic items, but there are 2 standout items which are for new matters. What is the total budget for the parks? Capital Works, can you answer that?
So for the parks renewals, there's $98,000, and for the parks minor projects, that's $20,000. So the renewals is for basically stuff that we've already built and we're renewing it, we're replacing it at the end of its life. And for the parks new stuff or the minor works projects, they're for generally new ideas.
Okay, and you're suggesting that's 15,000 for the dump station and 5,000 for power for the Island View Reserve. They're both items that the board discussed previously. So the dump station, is this based on a new location or doing up the current location?
So things have changed dramatically since we last spoke. regarding that, and part of that is regarding the approval for TIF funding for the Martin Road toilets. And so that gives us a good opportunity to actually look and do a lot more due diligence at that existing site. So that's what I'm proposing.
Yeah, I understand that, and I think it's good because you've got concerns about connecting into that sewer main, but it gives you an opportunity to move things around to suit and make it a drive through. I think that's a good move. Yeah.
And are you looking to source some external funding from NZMCA? Is that the intention?
That's still the case as well, yes. So
and are they helping you with the design?
Sorry, beg your pardon?
Are they helping with the design of the?
Yes, so we haven't gotten to that point first. What we're doing first is doing the due diligence under the ground to figure out whether or not it's doable. And once we've gotten past that hurdle, then we'll certainly engage with NZMCA. They have promised some funding, and we'll engage with them with the design as well, if everything under the ground is doable first. So we've got to do those investigations first, Kate.
Thanks.
Yeah, my point I'm just raising here, if I can, Derek, is the Island View car park, $208,000 into this year. First of all, it seems a tremendous amount of money, but I'm sure you're not going to do it well. When's the timing frame for that?
I believe that's somewhere between peak period and beach hop.
So that doesn't work for us because for the work that needs to be done on there, which is pretty much levelling out that piece of dirt, and the peak season is summer, coming December, why can't it be brought forward, please? Is the question.
We're actually, bizarrely enough, I think, having a meeting about that later today. So I can take your comments on board.
Well, I think part of the concern parents expressing is that the campground's closing prior to Christmas, so there's going to be even more pressure on parking for motor vehicle, freedom camping or motorhomes in town, because the number of them used to go to the campground and you'd see them there. With that closing, we do need to be able to provide more than we've got at the moment.
Yeah, through the chair, I think pick up on Derek's comments is there's going to be discussion this afternoon. The only thing I would say is that all boards want all their projects like these done before Christmas, and so that is a challenge for us resource-wise to be able to deliver everything, you know, in a compressed timeframe like that. So we'll do our best. Well,
can you see our point though?
I'm totally see your point. Yeah, I'm not arguing with we don't point at all. It makes total sense to get it before Christmas before the peak load comes. But again, I guess from my side, trying to manage the team and the resources that we have available. There's just a challenge around that. That's all I'm saying.
No, I understand. It's probably more of a priority than the power.
Yeah.
Some things.
There'll be some junction to try and make those priorities happen so we can deliver on what you guys want to do ahead of when all visitors come totally to fall.
If it wasn't for the campground closing, I'd probably say, okay, after Christmas.
But we are going to be
extra freedom sense.
Yeah. And Derek, when you have those discussions, could you please look at a street light on the Island Bay Reserve itself, where they are parking at present? It's absolutely black there at night. You've got the toilet block and there's no lighting there at all. It is dangerous for people that are down there. Can I suggest you put a street light in there on the actual area there, on the car park area?
Makes sense.
I mean, this is, we have been trying for 5 years to get this park sorted.
Derek's thinking, I can hear him.
Yes, the cogs are whirring. We'll add that into the mix as well. Thank you.
Can I ask a couple more questions, if I may?
Certainly.
Williamson Park safety improvements, $25,000. Is that for the extension to the footpath to connect along Ocean Road, or is that something else?
Yeah, it's for that, through the chair, yeah.
Is that in the right area then?
Yeah, I've looked at it, so I think it's the appropriate way. It goes across where the crossing is, footpath will be there, trying around.
Yeah, my point is that in the right budget area? It's not under footpaths, it's under...
No, it's part of the reserve, so I think it's in the right location. It doesn't actually matter whether it's under local road.
But once again, when you're reflecting, can I stress, with the near accidents that are happening, if that can be urgently done, because it really is the worry what's happening.
Yep. Yeah, no, definitely.
There's much more traffic in town.
And one more, if I may, Derek, I'm not too sure if this is yours or not, the CCTV cameras, are this you?
No, afraid not.
You've actually moved on an item or two here.
No, we're talking parks and reserves. Are we?
Well, they come up under the work program, well, you can.
No, they're in park and reserve.
Well, if it's not yours, Derek, it won't. We'll bring it up somewhere else, but yeah, I need to talk about it.
Who's is it?
CCTV.
Yeah.
I think we've got that just in with the project team, Andrew Bowden's team, I think, delivering that, working in conjunction with Island.
Everything is groups as anyway, so.
Quite.
Okay, so we've got the report, we've received the reports, I'd like to move that.
I'll second it.
I'll move it, thank you. All those in favour? Against? Any abstentions? No. Moving on to the reserve management plan, so, and we have on board, is that the right name next up?
Oh, Pete and Emma.
That's Maria, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning, Emma. Morena. So we have, thank you for making those changes. And I'm satisfied that reflects our discussion. Is everyone else the same line?
Yeah, I'd like to thank you too for making those changes. I just want to know if you can tell us where they actually appear in the document. So,
yes, yep. I actually thought of that this morning, that might be helpful. So I've got a list of page numbers that refer to the RMP document that's in the link. So Moana Point Reserve is on page 20. Harry Watt Drive Reserve is page 31. Mayfair Avenue Reserve is 37.
And they're all highlighted in red, aren't they?
They are in red, yes. So the document still reflects all of the changes made.
Right. Is that the wording that you've put in there about it doesn't make effect? Is that also in there, each one of those? Or is it at the start in the appendix?
Sorry, what are you?
Well, you were saying that you were making the some discussion or putting some words in the document to say that these statements made by the regional council are not an action, they are more of a reference or a
yes. So in each of those reserves, they're in the background section of the reserve management plans.
The background.
So they, yes. So it essentially is just providing context for the reader, whether that's elected members or the public.
At the back of the document or the front of the document?
So it's within each of the relevant individual reserve management plans, as listed on page 35 of the agenda.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Just to see where it is at all.
Yeah. So that wording it will appear in each of those reserves, except for Harry Watt and Mayfair Avenue, because it's just refers to some parts of the reserve.
Right.
Okay, thank you. That's all. I just need clarification around that. Thank you.
Just another quick question, Emma. We had some discussion last time regarding the link. It's not a reserve per se, but it's on page 79, and it says that to continue to maintain area for day visitors, or we question whether that's actually happening. But if the council wanted to do something else with that land to make it better for the community, would that wording preclude us doing it?
I'll have to let Faith answer that one because I'm not sure as to what the status of that land is. Faith, are you aware of that?
So the link is in, I'm just
checking. Appendix C.
Appendix C. So Appendix C's technically aren't reserved, so none of the Reserve Act provisions apply, if that answers your question.
So, yeah, the question is, can we do something in the future other than maintain it for day visitors if we want to do something else? Yeah.
Oh, certainly. Yeah. So this
doesn't tie our hands. No.
Yeah. No, certainly.
No, that's good. Thank you. Any other questions? If not, I'll put the resolution. Someone like to second that? Dave?
Yeah, that's me.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried.
Thank you for your help.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So that's a report to council.
It is.
Okay, now we come on to the community board work program. And we have it there of all the colours, so some of these will be things that we might have already talked about, but we'll go through them one by one. So if there anyone, all of them, well, there's one that's red at the moment, they've all walked, but.
Can we have an update on that?
Yeah, but through the chair.
Yeah.
I can't give you much of an update, but we're still waiting to hear back from DOC. So the team have been chasing them. They have got resourcing pressures, and they haven't actually managed to move it forwards too much since the end of their hearings process. So they've got to write up their hearings report. The team have been chasing them this week on emails and phone calls to try and get some answers about if the hearing report is done, where can we, what is it? If it's not done, what's the time frame for that? So, and they've got some resource pressures. I understand that, but I think what we're facing now is that I need to escalate it probably further up within that organisation because we need to hear. We're waiting. I'm getting answers there.
Harry Allen, I think.
That's probably a little bit too far up. But I think we do. Yeah, we've got to the stage now where we need to escalate it up, and I think the officers within the Department of Conservation are doing what they can, but we're struggling to kind of get traction, get something out of them about where they got to with it. So, but that's the next course of action from our side is for me to escalate with someone within DOC further up on the local managers.
Thank you. So on this page here, we've got the CCTV cameras. So,
yeah. So we paid $130,000 for a system through WatchU. We sat down and worked this out very carefully with the understanding we'd have capacity for the future. 20 cameras was what we talked about, but Justin. So we've got other options around town where people have put cameras in and asking if they connect, and we say, well, consider that and see if it's a big benefit for us to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Our concerns are, is that capacity there? Sure. Making sure it's there.
Yep.
And the fact that the 2 or 3 cameras that we're putting on is $43,000, which they are not number recognition cameras. They are just standard cameras, 180-degree cameras.
Yeah.
Seems heavy. Is there a reason why? I've done some work with the other people who put cameras around town and their numbers aren't anything near these. I just wonder if there's other work they're doing here that needs to include this.
Yeah, there probably is. I don't have the answer for you here now. I'm not in that level of detail, but I'm happy to go away and try and get a little bit more detail from.
If it's old, they're going to put it on
exactly.
Do something like
Try and
that.
break down a little bit more, so give you guys a bit more of a picture of what the detail is behind that number. Understand what you're saying.
I think one of the things was that the camera that's at Harry Watt Drive has actually got an infrared unit underneath it, which would be quite expensive, which at night actually shows the registration plate for the number plate of the vehicle. So that it's not just a matter of putting a camera up.
oh no, that kind of we understand.
That's a number recognition.
These are number recognition going on the Surf Club building.
No.
Yeah. These are a cheaper version.
Yeah.
They haven't got that quality of control with them, but they still need to be put into the SCADA system and set up. And
there's always extra costs.
Have they got access at night though?
Exactly, I'm not sure. So that's the level of detail.
That's possibly what's.
But I am like Terry and questioning the price because we've got them on our house. We've got the laser ones that shine at night and they cost us $6,200 each.
Yeah, but
they're fantastic.
Yeah, they've mentioned there about fibre connection required at the Surf Club police station because that's the police can. It's good for the police can home because that's actually an area which would be very good. Yeah, save a lot of if they're looking. That's an extra actually would be damn good to have for Christmas.
The police say that it's not 100% effective at present because of the fact of fibre. They can't get fibre into there.
It's often a challenge, not just at Whangamata, that whole you've got the camera in, but the connection back.
The fiber's been there, just got to connect. So we've got the resource. So I think the thing that happened is the one they did at the park, at the transfer station, we couldn't get any of the utilities like Vodafone or Spark to put it onto their.
Yes, I remember that
So
well.
we had to run it broadband through the internet. So fibre might be another option for that one to lessen that problem we've got there, because it's quite a drag on the system. pulling through
Yeah, I
the
remember
data.
that one well. Yeah, that was a real challenge. Yeah.
So therefore, it would be better to buy them a phone and link it to a phone like we have, so that when you're anywhere in the world, the camera
Oh, they
pings.
go to the police.
And so therefore, they just have to buy them a phone.
Yeah, they're on its phone.
Is there any way the council could send a letter through to Chorus or Spark advising them of the concern that it is holding up the security system and asking them to prioritise fibre?
I'm not sure if there's a hold up currently with that or not. Like obviously we had that issue with the other one out of the transfer station last financial year, but I don't know whether we're getting held up with this one or not. If we are getting held up with this one around Chorus, then happy to send that letter to do that. Yeah.
That'd be great, because we are keen to have it pre-Christmas.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's another Christmas present.
But, you know, we do have a problem at Christmas.
Yeah, on that same page, we've already talked about it, it's the Williamson Park safety improvements that we've discussed.
Yeah.
And I really think that will make a hell of a lot of difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we've all, okay, so moving on to the next page, or is there something else on that?
No, I just got a question.
Yeah. Page 2, we've already talked about Island View car parks. Anything else on page 2? The question regarding the things like the lip curb construction, streetlight improvements, how are we going to identify the priorities for the year? What's your intention?
So I think based on the next report we've got regarding the road and people budgets, what we're saying on streetlight, at least streetlight improvements, is that we don't have any program other than, you know, if you guys are telling us there's areas that, I know Dave's got an area where he's quite concerned about from a streetlight perspective, those can be the priority basically, so we can have that conversation with you guys now if you've got those priorities around the streetlights.
44,551, how many lights would that do?
I'll just have to go back and find, I've got that number in here somewhere.
I thought it was about 14,000 and it cost
something like that, yeah. Yeah, I had three on in my brain list.
Yeah.
All brand new, like putting up a pole and a light. Yeah.
Because I know Chevron Place with,
That's the one that Dave's talking about.
that's what Dave's talking about.
And that Island View, but that.
And the Island View, would that come out of the Island View parking?
I think potentially based on that discussion we had before with Derek, I think we'd probably try and see if you could do it out of that project, you know.
Well, we sort of with the view that 200,000 is a lot of money for parking, but they don't.
You'd be surprised.
Well, a lot of motorhomes park on roads. Yeah, no, okay, so.
I like the enthusiasm.
So we'll talk about the curve on the next. Next side.
Yeah.
We come to roading.
Yeah. Get into that a little bit more on that one if you want, a bit more detail.
It's a huge amount of money.
So the beach road toilets currently on hold.
Yeah, that's the one I want to know.
So any update there?
So the update on that one is that servicing wise, from a wastewater perspective, it's quite challenging. There's actually not a wastewater line that runs down that road parallel to the beach. The lines will just come down. Yeah, so it's quite a challenge there. So we're just looking at options around that, whether we how we try and service that. The other thing of this one is that we have to be really on our game with this one around consultation and the location of it. Now, obviously, we've had a number of projects where we need to make sure where we've been challenged around our consultation. So we need to make sure that whatever we do around things like this, it's got to be watertight. You know, it's got to be really structured. So again, this is one that I'm not willing to kind of rush through and then we get caught. The last thing I want to do is put us in that position. So that one is again, it's just really taking our time to do this one and get the detail, because this is one that came into the program a little bit later. So it's not one that we've envisaged for years and years and got everything so that we're waiting to go. And so we've got to now do all that work to make sure that we don't get up and, give ourselves a long nose.
Can we put in a solution that doesn't involve going into the public sewer?
Engine tank, possibly. Yeah, possibly. I know the team are looking at.
That's the new one, isn't it?
But you're still going to do consultation.
Oh, it's certainly a consultation,
But as far as the servicing side, but it's speed that up, make that a lot easier because
They
we churn a lot of
were
money.
looking at a dry bulb.
They were looking at the drive off. We churn a lot of money with the servicing, trying to get the line all the way back up the road.
Yeah.
You have to pump it up, that's gonna have to have its own little pump station. So we are looking at options.
Yeah, it had a retention tank beside it and it's just empty, because it's just a, sort of it, but but it wouldn't be big, highly.
You could do, I think a dry bulb would be a better option. But yeah, I think your point on that, that's another project you guys are keen to get on the ground and actually construct it, but. I know, fair enough.
It's probably not as urgent as some of that one.
No. Yeah, it's slightly a run below those.
Yeah, right below, get the consultation done, but
Yeah, but we'll take a look at options around.
if it's not done prior to Christmas, that's not.
Yeah, it's not as critical as the other one.
As the other ones, yeah.
But it is a bit strange how we do all these wonderful barbecue tables, we put in fancy barbecues, we put in a beautiful kids playground, and the toilet is about 500 metres away, and you've got to pack up all your kids, and it's just, we do everything backward.
I think, anyway, I take your point. I think if you start with a clean slate, designing the town from scratch now, it'd be a lot easier, but I think we have it over the years.
Well, all those pretty new, the barbecues and everything, that whole thing is a new concept.
Okay.
Surely they'll just get a letter saying that toilet is going in there and that's responsible.
Was part of the long-term plan though, so provisions on it?
I couldn't remember.
No, I know you had submissions in support of it.
Yeah.
That's the problem is like mutiny cage.
The problem is you don't have the detail, so people can go beach road, I call it down that end, not down this end, or, so you've got to go through the process and, well, we can do it, let's put K's number and cell phone on the bottom.
Feel free.
Probably not the way to go.
I think if we do some work on it though, Bruce, it is, we could find the right place.
Yeah, definitely.
Down the end of a straight road, or there's a couple of spots.
The spots and the trees there, it's perfect.
We can, but just that, public infrastructure, you always need 50%.
But they are ringing and complaining about people pooing and weeing.
Well, we've got a good platform to springboard on next year, so, yeah.
There's health and safety. Okay, then the last page has got the two new.
Is there any timeframes around those Martin and Island View toilet TIF funding? Because they normally want to happen pretty quickly when they give you TIF funding.
Yeah, well, we'll have to happen in this financial year, but I don't have any time because again, these ones are late ones as well, they were a bit of a surprise, a good surprise.
The Martin one has to link with the dump station though, doesn't it?
Ideally, that's the way to do it, do it at one go like Derek mentioned,
And Island View has been on the card for some time because it's still.
It has, it has,
So you've got
Not really, no. Next meeting, I think we'll get a lot more. I mean, this is as at 1 July, the other thing is, I should say, is we kind of run like a 13-month year. So July is basically all taken up and closing out all the previous year. So the teams are just flat out, and July is basically just given up to the previous financial year. And so they really get stuck in things in August. So I anticipate you'll see a lot more, probably a lot more detail that you're looking for in the next meeting.
Hey, looking at the Island View thing, can we just, that 208,000, is there any way you can show us all the costing on that?
Yeah, definitely, we can bring that to the board.
Because that, to me, is just so excessive.
Yeah, I understand that, it seems like a lot of money, but,
Well, what are they going to do?
Well, it's just.
Put marble.
That sounds good. No, let me bring the costs back to you guys.
We just walking the ground flattened in grass.
I know, it's never that simple. The problem is if you look at, different areas, I think it was the Esplanade where a few years ago, the board and some of the local staff filled an area of ground that then created a lot of problems. So there's always other things.
We're not asking for.
We're not asking for.
No, just all I mean. No, I understand. But all I mean is when you rush in and try and do a quick job, which is you do it for the right reasons, to try and improve the level of service and make things better. You can sometimes trip up and then cause yourself more.
The motorhomes by the netball courts don't park on.
They don't park on, only on grass, it's sand.
Yeah.
So it drains perfectly.
Okay.
It's just like that junk, originally they rushed and.
I'll make a note that we bring back those costs.
And pleasing to see we've got OPEX in the agenda here, so community grants we're bringing back to the next meeting. So do we know how many we've had yet? And
No, I don't, because Esther up in the bottom and Tiana have been doing all our community grants for us this year, mainly because I just don't have the capacity to be doing it all. I think she said Whangamata was 26 or something, which is about on par with previous years. I'll just see if I can find the spreadsheet for you.
Now, it shows clearly there the library is 72,000 and the pool, which has been, well, we've given $500,000. That's going to extend, the operational side of that's got to expand up to meet the criteria of a seasonal pool administration to a full year-round pool. So yeah, you can see that. Right?
So I've just found the spreadsheet. So there's 38 community grant applications.
Right, okay.
can you run your Ed over the line and see what that goes up to?
Hopefully it's just got into this magic little piece here. And that's just 2 months or something now.
I suspect it's going to be more than our budget.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Usually about 100,000.
Didn't we have it's showing 37,000 there, wasn't the budget?
I thought it was 60.
It's 60,000 the budget.
Well, the same 37.
37.
No, they've missed that out. It's 60.
60. So totaling 123,000 is what's been applied for.
Oh, yeah.
50 cents each.
Maybe twice.
So you've got 60,000 in there, so you're 63,000 short.
And they don't know about their rates bill yet, so that would be interesting. Can I go back to the NIP curve, please?
We can talk about it under the roading budget.
Okay. So can I raise one more thing then? Have you finished your, sorry, have you finished where you are?
If there's no more questions on OPEX, we can go back to capital.
Okay, we'll just have your OPEX, just go through them. So we've got the $10,000 bus link investigation. We need to understand how that should be used and get the best consultation we can. I did mention yesterday, because it's a joint venture, we need Tyrell Paranui on board with it, that maybe we should be thinking of them as well when we talk about.
So they got some money?
No, they
They've only got the 10 grand.
No, they have, TP haven't put any OPEX in.
Okay.
So it's only your 10 grand that's there.
So how much advantage we get out of that, or how we use it is really important. So it'd be great to get some understanding of how we should best use that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so we just go back to this information here. Here it is here. So yesterday I was talking to Dean Allen from the Regional Council, and he was asking me about how this project that was going to be led to tidy up the east side of the Whangamata estuary. So are all these items in here, are they all from the long-term plan? Is this our long-term plan work program?
Yes.
So I get this out here, and it's written in here, the Whangamata estuary, $20,000, and I can't see it on there. I just wonder if we've missed that out somewhere.
Unless it comes in something else.
So that's to clean up that side, this side of the Whangamata where the council path goes one side and the other side is a lot of rubbish. And regional council are happy to work with us on it.
OPEX thing, Terry?
I don't know.
There's a 20,000.
It's under OPEX, it's what is showing you can be.
Right, so it's in there.
It's under OPEX.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that that is programmed and put into the work program.
So why is it not showing under OPEX?
So it's not under OPEX.
What I would say to this, and Eileen might want to comment, is that this is not trying to capture all OPEX that's associated with Whangamata Community Board area, because it's specific projects that the board might have an interest in, and like grants and stuff, because obviously there's lines and lines of OPEX.
Oh, no, I appreciate that, but if there's
If it's a specific one that the board would want to see, then I think, that
it should pop on the work program somewhere because it is a project that we want to try and, it's working, that it's a connection with the regional council over it. Sure. And Harbour Care said they would help in there as well, but it needs to be driven by council.
Can I just talk about that bus service that we were talking about there. The Whangamata Club has just purchased a new bus for their club for delivering people. It isn't used during the day. Would it be possible that we talk to them about using that bus for the transporting of people to and from Waihi and that, and we pay them?
The structure of this project is it's driven by the regional council, but it's NZTA money. And yesterday Ed told us clearly that, and that's why it's pushed out till next year, because there's no money in the budget. The NZTA has really dragged money back out of the budget for other things, obviously. But regional council, by driving the program, they get 50% subsidy for paying for it by their structure through the, is it NZTA over as it is, and 50% by the community. You have to pay a small fee to use it, but Gold Card's free. And those people would come up with a tender for it, and there'd be a tendering process, and then whoever got it would work to a program. So that's how it's structured.
Yeah, so through the legislation, the regional council are the ones that can do public transport. So as Terry said, if you look at the Thames Connector bus service, that came from the regional council. So they do the planning, the business case, they do all that work, they do the tendering, they do the contract management. They don't actually put any money towards it, like to fund the service. They just do all the administration and organising, and then the funding of it is 51% from NZTA and 49% from TCDC, so from the community board area of Whangamata, if you guys were going to fund it. So that's how the funding works. Terry's correct. Anything that goes through with NZTA funding has to go through like a proper tender process, like an open contestable process. So that organisation that you just mentioned, they could tender for it, you know, like they might just do a sharp price if they've got a van sitting there all day doing nothing, you know, so, you know, the local taxi company in Thames, they were successful in winning the tender. They bought a van, just for the bus section. So that's how it all kind of go. I know it's a little bit, it's not as easy as just going to them and going, hey, can you run the service, but it's got to go through all the checks and balances.
And also it's a lot of sort of rules and regulations around having the van. Anyway, we've been at that for 2 years. So it's totally different.
So I think they're in the mix. If we get there, it won't happen this year. It'll be in the next year's long-term plan.
It just seems that it's something that could be utilised. It's not being used properly at present.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no more items, I'll move those resolutions. Seconded by Terry. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Now we're moving on to the rolling capital budgets. This is your chance to talk about the curves and street lights and.
So the NIB curb project, which we started in 2014, has still got some work to be done. We did the walk the streets, we did the plans, we showed what streets had curb and channeling, footpaths, etc. We started the program off, and we obviously the process. I think this is what we need. Is Ed here? Oh, yes, Ed. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning.
The thing that needs to just explain a little bit why we got to the stage of putting NIB curb in instead of curb and channeling everywhere. There's a desire, first of all, that a lot of the town is based on soakage as opposed to stormwater facilities. So having a lot of soakage is really important, and a lot of the sections are now divided up with a lot of concrete and roofs, and the berms are quite big and large, and they help with the soakage, so they don't put water back into the properties or properties water back on the road. The second was to widen the road to 5.5 metres to keep that, so there was quite a big variation in the street widths as we ran town. And the third one, the NIB curb, which they talk about as a stormwater control on the roads, which is a pretty level concrete edge, but it protects the edge of the road, so there's not a lot of egress of water coming under the asphalt, which is quite a big issue apparently when the roading issues with floodings. So that was the reason around it. The other one too is the non-resident ratepayers who bring all the equipment to the beach and they want somewhere to park it because they haven't got the space now in their sections. So Beverly Avenue was a big issue. We went and canvassed the whole street and asked them who wants a footpath and who wants to park their cars, and it came very clear that the parking of the cars override the footpath. So that's why there was never a requirement to put a footpath there. And all those areas which we're looking for nip curb is more in those areas where the non-resident ratepayers are, like beachfront back to it. And then came along the modelling of the stormwater system. So we did a stormwater modelling after a pretty bad event in 2017, March 2017. And from that came out a area where we found in town that some areas where the water tends to flow down towards the small golf club, Wellington Golf Club around Tui and Kiwi Road and all that, there seems to be a more preference for curb and channeling than nip curb. And footpaths obviously became more important in those areas when we got control of the water on the road. So that was the discussion that happened, and there was a 3-year planned nip curb versus stormwater plan put in place. I think that needs to be re-looked at now based on the fact that Bruce has done a modelling on the stormwater. I suppose you've seen it, and also the tsunami plan that's gone out, which really shows where there's areas of town that are concerning people about, hey, what's going on down here? And just make sure we're on the right page. If that's okay, we'd be very happy to sit around and have that discussion if you are prepared to do that.
Totally prepared to do that. At the moment, well, first of all, thank you for going through that. You've basically done my speech for me. You're quite correct. Nib curb is not there for drainage, for road drainage. It's there to give a good edge control and to give a constant edge width on the road. At the moment, we're working through the end of the plan that was originally started in 2018. If I could, I have it on my screen, but basically we've got the finalisation of Barraclough Road, Given Avenue and Rutherford Road for this financial year. That's the plans at the moment. But if there are any other areas that you want to give priority over those, I'm very willing to discuss them.
Yeah, I think we're listening to you. The thing is, based on the fact that the stormwater modelling for the town, is the nib curb the right thing for those streets? It's a question we're asking, really. And if you're happy to say yes, nib curb is still the right place for those areas, well then we're on board with it. But we're just thinking, is the water tends to, if you look at say Graham Street and Low Street, the water runs down towards Kiwi and Tui and those streets there. So maybe they deliver water off the road to a stormwater system, whereas the other ones don't. So yeah, we're really looking for your expertise to say this is the right thing for this right area. We're not saying it.
So I think just so through the chair jump in here, I think what Ed's team will have to just make sure we're working with John Smith, you know, who did the work in stormwater modelling. You guys remember the big map we put up and we took down. We did it too close. So yeah, and Ed might not be fully up to speed on that yet, or his team might not be, but that information all sits there with Jonathan Smith in our projects team.
I think what we're saying is there are parts where the stormwater is going to be a strict solution.
Yeah.
So we don't want to where
you come back in.
We're going to do the stormwater. So just to align the two projects.
Yep. Totally. Yeah. That makes sense. So yeah.
Understood. Yes.
Sorry. Yeah. We brought the stormwater forward to try and blend those two together.
Yeah. Okay, now there was an attachment A, which was the Whangamata. I remember the discussion. Barraclough was the next cab off the rank, etc. So that aligns to what I recall. But the footpath improvements attachment A, I'm not sure where this came from, but it's got sort of Beverley Terrace in there, and that's been improved. So that probably needs to be reworked. So yeah.
So did that come out of some sort of discussion? Ed, or is it, I don't quite know where the Beverley Terrace thing came from, but there's definitely no desire to put a footpath down that road. You'll have a fight with all the people with their cars and trucks saying, don't park yours on the footpath, and they'll say, get stuff just where my car goes, so that will be a concern.
It's not 2023, I thought we've done it.
It's done. It's
So certainly the top one was the one by the Waitomo petrol station.
That's a dark one.
Although there was some, and it's only 37 metres and 16,500 seems quite dear, but just for a little footpath, but I'm quite sure there's a reason for that.
Well, with the council, everything's twice as expensive.
Bruce, just on that matter, do they get more than one quote when they are doing these jobs, or do you just have a contract person that you just ring up and say, we want a price on this job?
It depends on the jobs. Ed might want to answer that a little bit further.
Yes,
That.
Yeah, through the chair. Any jobs under it's 200,000, we normally go directly to our term maintenance provider Ventia. They've already tendered for these, and the actual costs of going out to tender are probably more expensive than the actual cost of the works. For larger jobs, we obviously follow council procurement rules, so we go out to tender for those. So answer to your question, the smaller jobs normally go directly to Ventia. Ventia then employ subcontractors, and typically local contractors, to do the work.
So what he's saying is when the Ventia contract was tendered, they put in rates for all these types of things. And so if those rates are favourable now, you know, like in the marketplace, we'll use them because it saves us having to go to tender, you know. The other thing is that often we've been through this process a number of times over the last 10 or 20 years about can we just go direct to the local subbies, and it never actually works out cheaper because of all the additional stuff that they need to do around quality assurance, safety, traffic management, all that kind of stuff. So it's never quite as simple as what we might like it to be, that you can just go to the guy down the road who you know and get a sharp price and get it done. It just we've tried that, it just doesn't actually work that easily. But I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that either.
No, that's about it.
Can I, sorry, finished? Yeah. Can I say, Ed, that I'm really concerned about this list of footpaths. I think Martin Road's the top one's right. Short Road connects with Beverly Terrace, so if it's not going on Beverly Terrace, I can't see a requirement there. Low Street.
Love Street.
Love Street. Where's Love Street?
Well, it's like that.
I think it's Low Street, isn't it?
That's a typo.
That's a typo,
I think it's low.
So those ones, maybe if we could just have a little sit around the table and think about those. And Port Road in Harrington, I'm not quite sure where that one is. Port Road in Harrington, that's round by the police station, is it?
Yes, that's correct, yeah.
So is it okay if we just have a chat about that?
Quite happy to have that discussion, yes.
Thank you very much.
Maybe we have a workshop next meeting and work through any of the items we haven't developed the priorities. So we have that as a workshop item for the street lights, that we've still got some hanging over and the different parts, work through those. Yep.
Yeah. And I think if you were there, Ed, you'd hear the one that the small piece of footpath that's in the parks and reserves for the Williamson Park to connect up on Ocean Beach Road will fall into that footpath category too, okay? You know about that?
I wasn't aware of that being parks and reserves, but yes, so we can certainly talk about it.
Okay. Thank you.
So in terms of resolutions, I'd like to delete recommendation 2, and we just received the report. Yeah. Seconded by Kay. Yeah. So just one receiving the report. We've still got to work. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried.
Thank you.
Right. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Now, rates remission. You'd like to talk to us, Gary?
Judy's here.
Hello, Judy.
Got a wallet? Got your money?
Right, so this is a bit of a newie for the community board. I believe Tyra of Hawanui had a similar discussion yesterday.
We did.
Yes. Yeah, so as I understand it, these are properties on council land which are non-rateable under the Act, but have to pay the service charges.
That's correct.
But in the past, they haven't been charged that service charge, is that correct?
That's correct.
they haven't been charged, obviously, because they've been resolved through the community boards. However, the policy has always been the same, where the service charges were not always being payable through the community board. There's no authority under the policy for the community board to make that decision to pay those service fees. So there has been, whether it's been a little bit of miscommunication in the past or a misunderstanding, that's how it has been. But the last 3 years, all those service charges were paid through the community board area. So, and that was district wide. That wasn't just certain community boards. That was right through the district. So, if I can just take the report that it has been read and just explain with it being non-rateable properties, and only having the service charges, that's why the majority of these community boards don't actually meet the criteria. However, there are other alternative options that we can look at through different remissions that we have under the policy. So one would be the miscellaneous purposes in relation to the pen charges, because this is where the majority of the charges come from, where there's multiple pens throughout in each of the buildings. Some pay 6, some pay 2, but obviously varies. And so if the community, the group would actually be able to apply under the miscellaneous purpose to try to see whether we can have a more fair and equity approach on who pays that many pens. That could be an option. The other alternate option is to actually go under the financial hardship policy, remission policy as well. So if a group was actually going to find themselves into a hardship situation, then that's another remission policy that they could apply under as well. So.
Okay, and if, say, one of these groups, I won't pick on any in particular, but say they are able to demonstrate that it was causing them hardship to pay those rates. So they made application to the council. Who picks up the tab for remitting that rate, or is there no tab to pick up?
It is actually a tab that's covered throughout the whole district, and it gets covered within that, the rates from residential, other commercial properties, entities here.
Yeah. And how are the other community boards dealing with this issue?
So we've currently only been in front of the Taiaroa Pauanui board yesterday, and they were talking about an out of cycle request to have this covered for an out of cycle grant. I think it's
budget request.
Yeah.
So really fair for the community board to go to council and ask for out of cycle budget, as Judy mentions. Yeah. So still funded by the community board, but you've got to go through council for new budget, so it's out of cycle. Yeah, for that quantum, whatever that was, the service charges.
So that would fall back on the local ratepayers, would it?
Yeah.
But if they were remitted under hardship, it would fall across the district.
I believe so, yeah.
That's correct. Yeah.
So we need to be consistent across the district. If one board's doing one thing and one's doing another, there could be some equity issues.
Through the chair, that's community empowerment in action. If a board wants to fund that stuff from the local rate.
My preference is that the first off they go and apply for hardship and come back to us if they're unsuccessful.
Through the chair, I believe that's the recommendation from Judy and from Donna. Yes, consistent with what you've said.
Yeah.
And I agree with that approach. It's just that we haven't budgeted for this. We've got no money available. And if you look, we've got $138,000 for a $60,000 grant. So there's no money in that either. So that out of budget request is really just to build some reserves. And I don't know what the number is for that, but it's got a number in here that says 19,000, whatever it is, that we have got something that, because these people will come back to us and say, we're giving you a grant to run our business and they're giving us a bill for $2,000, ain't going to work.
Well, I think if they under B, they apply for their hardship remission first and then see what's left over, then they come back to us and we consider it then rather than do the out of budget request first off. Otherwise we'll be wearing it all in some of the other parts of the district made it the other way around.
Can you tell me that your own money surf club, it's 000, and yet it's got a public toilet and toilets in the facility? Is there no pan charge required there?
No. there wasn't a charge on there.
Why is that?
That will be something I'll need to discuss with Nicole from property. It may come under within the lease about that there's no on charge for that.
There's a public toilet there, but they've got their own toilets inside. So there's a public facility.
It was being constructed during the previous year.
Mr. Chair, through you, Mr. Chair, the toilet under the basement of the Surf Club building is a council-run, operated, funded toilet facility.
That's the toilet, yeah. That's the toilet available to the public, but there's also Surf Club toilets internally to the building, aren't there?
Yeah, there is.
And that would get caught by the rates in the normal process for these other clubs, yes.
But it hasn't been picked up, is it because it was being constructed when the count was done?
I think it's a timing, just as you say, it's a timing issue, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we'll deal with that next year.
Yep.
So if we add a fourth, fifth resolution that well, actually, I think D covers it.
No, I think we need to have that resolution that the council consider in their budget request when it's passed, when it's.
For those who are unable to achieve through the hardship.
That's a bit the report of the roof committee, that they've actually got some other powers. We don't have, obviously.
Yes, the miscellaneous purpose remission, that will go through audit risk, them to actually obviously agree or disagree to pay those funds.
And that would be a council.
Yes.
So those ones go through there, and then the financial ones go to the financial side. Is that right? They're two different.
The hardship ones.
They they both actually go through.
They both go through the
audit risk. Yes, I will just quickly confirm that for you though.
So our preference is for them to go through those avenues first, and then if there are any left out that fail, then they come back to us to do a report to council.
And at that time, we'll look at the budget request.
Yeah, yeah.
I just asked Eileen, who's going to send the letters out? Is it coming from staff and finance?
Finance or property?
I think it's property. Property deal with the community groups on a normal basis. So from our point of view, the only time we deal with them is obviously when we put a remission on their account, but because the account's actually under TCDC, our correspondence would go to TCDC to confirm that this has happened. And then, but if it's been granted, I believe that it would be property that send that information out.
Property. So normally under rates is a deadline, pay date and all that. What's the story around this one?
So we normally send out reminders to when we've got remissions and when we know about these things in May. It gives them time to get it back by about the 20th of June.
Yeah.
So that we've got it on the property and the remission already sorted by the 30th of June when the rates get set for the next rating year. So because we're obviously delayed from that time at the moment, we will work on it obviously as an emergency thing and get it done and dusted on the system.
So they're not going to get a considered penalty payment?
They applied prior to this rating year, so yes, they will actually get it for this year. We would then do it so that if the audit risk obviously approved to pay it under another remission policy, or they come under hardship, then this rating year, the 21-22, will be remitted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I just, you've got the Riverview Community Gardens, it's actually the Whangamata Community.
Okay. I'll make sure that's updated.
I'm suggesting A after ABCP, and or it'll be actually number 5, changing letters to numbers. So 5, the community board will consider an out of cycle budget request for the progress for those groups who are unsuccessful in securing assistance through 3 and 4 above, which is the hardship and the CAMS. Yeah. So once we know the outcome of that, we will consider that.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay.
So I just want to clarify my oath here. So the 2021-22 rating period, these will apply.
That's correct.
But the last 2021, yes, but last year's won't apply, yeah.
That's correct. So last year was resolved by the community board and already paid up to the 30th of June 2021.
21?
Yeah, so from the 1st of July, what we're applying for at the moment, what the community sports groups have applied for now, is for the 1st of July 2021 to the 30th of June 2022.
Right.
If it's agreed, then we would do it over the 3-year period.
Right.
So they won't then apply for 3 years.
Right.
But they will get a letter to remind them that it's up for renewal, and they'll have to obviously go through that same application.
Again. Yeah.
So the staff will undertake that process of getting the clubs to make that application. Then we'll hear back if any were unsuccessful. Is that okay if we do it? Okay, all happy with that?
Yeah.
Chair, if I can just, sorry, if I can just say, if there is a situation where they don't meet the criteria and need to go through those other avenues, we may pull it forward a little bit. So instead of notifying them in May, we might need to bring that back to say March or April to give them time to prepare documentation or their financials and things like that. I know that does take some time to get together, and I don't want to put that added stress on.
Yeah, no, we haven't got a date on that. So
no, that's great.
Work it through. Okay, I'll move all of those, put those 1 to 5. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. And then we go to the action schedule.
When will those things go back to the club? 3 months?
They'd have to go out in the next couple of weeks.
That's the book. Okay.
You're
I'm going to go on holiday. I'm going to go on holiday.
Okay, so action schedule, so, anyone got any questions or raised them or comments?
Says it start to prepare a report on the Williamson Park access platform. They're still waiting for Doc.
So through the chair, this was the one we had touched on this previously. This wasn't a high priority on the list of projects of what the team were doing, but there is obviously this work that's already ongoing with Doc around license to occupies and arrangements around a lot of that foreshore area is docked. And so we need to get some of that agreement landed, which the team are working on, which is taking a little bit of time to work on. And this is the same for some of those beach access steps as well, but we need to get that process sorted with Doc and get those approvals before we can actually do much.
The beach access?
Some of them are on Dogger land. So again, there's structures on land that's not ours. And so you end up caught in this situation where you can't have structures occupying public land that's not.
Don't we manage other people's land? We've got these agreements where we manage
exactly
that assets on other land.
Exactly. So correct you. It's the agreements that we're working on at the moment to get that agreement on their land. Yeah, exactly.
Seems to be a long-winded affair, doesn't it? You'd think these would be pretty much.
Well, you'd think so.
I
take, it is challenging because these things have been on these bits of land for years and years.
Yeah.
But now we're trying to actually get them formalised to get.
We're not asking Doc to fund this in any way.
No. Just get the approval and get the arrangement, the agreement in place, like an MOU. And I know it's it feels like a bit of bureaucracy, but it's the world.
So, do you expect these by Christmas?
The agreement, definitely, yeah, definitely. They've been working on that for a number of months now, Derek's team with Doc. But yeah, as to whether we do anything around the platform before Christmas, I'm not.
This mission would be able to do it.
Yeah, we want to try and get it landed. It's been going for a while now.
A lot of these have been dealt with elsewhere. I think we haven't any want to raise or anything new actually?
Yeah, I'd like to raise one. This wall piles. So I go down to the marina and I've got, each pole's got a cap on it. So the birds don't crap on it and do their thing. I go down to our wall and they've got a pile and a little wee cap sitting on the top that doesn't even fit it. So I go down to the local engineer and to the local roofing guy and it says, now you got a bit of sheet metal that you can fold around a circle and put a lid on. Yeah, no trouble. I heard the numbers on this. It was just horrendous that they were talking about to find a cap to go over a pile with a T on it, is roll a cone, put it around a strip, 2 pop rivets and it's finished. And you can use a bit of colour steel, get the colour you like. Why is this not hard to do?
So through the chair, I think what we were talking about originally was plastic ones, I think, wasn't it, plastic caps? Because I don't think colour steel would actually last that.
Well, you've got them down there in steel now, they're not plastic, all of them. The ones that just sit on top on their own, because they say, well, they can't get the standard size to fit the pot,
Yes,
the bigger.
yeah.
Well, you can manufacture those things.
You can, yeah, you can. I haven't seen them recently, Jerry, I haven't looked, so I can't.
Stops the seagulls crapping on them, and it just looks a little bit tidy.
We've probably got a bit of miscommunication here, because I thought it was around protecting the condition of the pile, as opposed to like a bird, you know.
It also stops the water getting in the top.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I think the team was saying that that's not normally what happens to those piles, they're not normally damaged to the water getting in, but I hear what you're saying now around birds and stuff.
Yeah. And it just looks properly, and it's sure, okay.
So it's an aesthetic, really, just look.
Well, they just spent $160,000 on the lagoon thing, you know, the wall thing down there.
Yes.
And I would have thought they would have just tidied those things up at the time.
Yeah, well, I'll go back to the team and see, see if we can get.
Be nice to just
something
finish
in that
them off.
space. Yeah.
Just gives it a bit of, that'd be great, thank you.
I'd like to put a new item on there for at the next workshop for the board to have a discussion on how to better utilise the property at the link. You can see that it's been used for public open space at the moment, so better use.
Well, especially now we know that it's not tied up anymore.
So, yes, certainly, yeah. So we have a discussion on that at the next workshop. So anything else on the schedule, schedule?
Well, very much like to see what stuff come up regarding the Whangamata Bus Transportation Project, how they're going to help get the consultation going.
Okay.
Do you want to talk about information centre here, or is it, I see there's a little bit there about information centre expressions of interest.
Oh, you can raise it now.
Do you raise it now?
I thought we were going to wait.
Right.
Oh, you don't have to raise it at all.
Let's just move on. It's a real concern to me that we started back, and I look at the history of when the Enterprise of Whangamata ran the information centre, and Kay Baker and her crew ran the information centre, and the previous ones with going back to Mr. Bartley, and they all failed through a funding operation. And it comes down to the $57,000, and how do you get two paid workers paying the outgoings of a business to provide the service that we expect in the town for our town? And through Marlene Carey, was it?
Yes.
And who was the other lady? That's right. We sat down with them and talked about the fact that there was a funding issue, and they said to us, put it in the long-term plan, Terry. So we're into the long-term plan. I still can't find it. So now we've got expressions of interest going out for $57,000. And I think we're going to walk through the same program again, for these people will say, because we don't want it to be a business that has preferential treatment, because we put somebody into the information centre. We did that, and we found there was issues around them being a little bit favouritism to where things went for certain people, and we had a pushback. So how are we going to support this project going forward, which we know it's going to fail on 57,000? So I'm asking, is there money somewhere that we can, out of cycle budget, or a way that we can find money to support this program so that we can move on and have this work for us?
Well, the thing is, we all know it is not a standalone project. It can never stand on its own. It has to be funded properly, you know, and we've been trying to get this funded properly forever. We know the model that works. It just needs a bit of extra funding.
So this is funded now district-wide, it's not locally funded.
Yeah, we asked why isn't it locally funded, because we used to fund the eyesights, $120,000 for Mercury Bay, $100,000 for 10, so it was suiting the vote of the council table to keep it funded, but it should be locally funded, but it's not, so we've got to live with it.
So when do the expressions of interest close?
July, August, September, 3 months.
No, I think it's before that.
Kirsten's online, you can ask him.
Kirsten?
So, yes,
Hello, Kirsten. Question,
Hi.
when are the expressions of interest for the information centre closing?
I'll just double check for you. I think it's Friday, the 27th.
Of August.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll have a report coming to our September meeting.
Yes.
And if we find that the outcome of that expression of interest isn't satisfactory, and we want to look at something different which may involve more funding, would we need to do a request to council for out of cycle budget?
I'm not entirely sure what that process would be at this stage, but yes, that would be what you would be looking at.
But we'll know by the September meeting just whether it's been a success or not, and then we will make a call at that stage.
Yeah.
Kirsten, can we ask, have you had any expressions of interest?
No, I haven't. I'm going up for expressions of interest for 3 centres. So the Thames one, I've got an expression of interest coming in today or tomorrow. They're looking, the person who's applying is looking at a different way of operating, providing the service. So there are some people out there doing some quite different, they're thinking about things a little bit differently. Yeah, and so the Whirianga one, I do know that there's a community group putting something together to put an application in.
That's how it works, a community group.
Oh, well, so we'll know by the 27th of August whether we've been successful or not.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Before you go, the one that I think you said was looking at Thames is coming up with a different approach. Because that's something we can sort of.
Yeah, I mean, if nobody comes forward for an expression of interest, I guess then we'll need to go back to the board and look at different ways of providing the service. Nationally, there seems to be a trend where they're moving away from information centres because of the high cost of running them, and there are companies out there coming up with quite high tech digital signage boards and all sorts of things, looking at different ways to provide information to visitors.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Thanks.
Okay.
Should we make it a workshop for our September meeting so that we can discuss it?
Absolutely.
The workshop, you cannot make a decision.
No, it's got to be.
It has to be on the agenda.
It can be on the agenda.
Can we have it on the agenda then?
It will be.
Well, that's what Kirsten said, she's going to bring it.
Yeah. So it needs to be on the September agenda. So we'll need someone to move.
I'll move that.
Okay, seconded by Dave. All those in favour? Aye. Against, carried. On to the final item, members' reports. Anyone want to share anything exciting? I'll just start off my trip to Australia with council.
My trip to Australia was cancelled.
Oh, well, there we are. Anyone else?
I had a great time at the motorhome babes. I am concerned that about the Three Waters thing. I think the council should really start.
We'll discuss that over the workshop.
Yeah, and the information centre, and I review all those concerns are very high on my agenda.
They're still on the agenda.
They're still on the agenda. And I've just been to a lot of meetings for the swimming pool.
I'd like to. I'd like to firstly say that I'm very impressed with the work that's been going on in the Lindsay Road group. Fantastic. They've really connected and really trying to put this project together, and I wish them well for that. Also impressed with the amount of fundraising that the pool people are doing. And they are running this project and they're monitoring every dollar right down to the last cent. And I'm sure that project will look really, they'll get value for money. Been working with PowerCode who have to upgrade the power supply to the heat pumps, and they're having to do some work around the poles outside to get a better feed for them. Pretty grunty in terms of power supply. So I'm very impressed with that work going on there. The Three Waters, as discussed, will be raised and issues coming out, but I'm getting phone calls and messages regularly about this, and people are starting to raise concerns about their assets and who's going to manage them and who's going to make decisions on them. Yeah, we'll leave it until we have that discussion. I had the pleasure of standing in for Her Worship the Mayor the other day and presenting a Community Service Award to one Kay Baker for the effort she's put into all her community projects.
Oh, well done, Kay.
Well done. So congratulations. Well done for that. The other one is that talk about we're setting up this community information connection between the community board and the community leaders in town. It's called the club, which means Community Leaders United Board, which is just a fancy word about. So we're pulling together something like 33 of the local community leaders, and the community board was all invited to this. And we're going to give them an update on the last 3 months of what we've done and an update on the next 3 months of what we're going to do. And inform them of, so they're informed about what's going on in town and around, and give the community board some understanding of what they do within the community. So the first meeting of that is on the 24th of August. The venue is yet to be resolved, and you'll get an email on it. And we've had buy-in from the whole 30 of those who wish to attend. Really excited about hearing what we do and how we do it. We also may have a couple of guest speakers there as well, just to present a dentist around what they're going to do at Joe's Farm, maybe, working on that, and something else that will work. So just to give you a heads up on that. So that's sort of thing to connect us better with the community.
Thank you, Terry. And just to add, all the board members are welcome to come. Terry and I will probably do tag team on the issues we're on share with the club. But if you want to come along and contribute, you're more than welcome. And the intention is every 3 months, but we'll see how it goes after the first one. What the uptake is. Dave.
I didn't attend last weekend because I was crooked at the last Whangamata ratepayers meeting, and they're all happy. They're a bit concerned in relation to a reply that John Freer had put some recommendation. Was it you, Bruce?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that he didn't. They didn't think that it adequately covered what he asked for. So
okay.
I don't.
Yes, so through the chair, they put forward a proposal of trying to work with council, work with our contractors on stuff around reserves, which I'm more than happy that we do that. I think the more discussions need to happen. It's not a we can't get into the detail at this stage. It's going to have to be detail on the ground, I think, working with them. So maybe I didn't adequately cover that in my reply to him. I gave him a reply on a couple of points. I'm happy with working with them, but like I say, it's not something we can do just over email. It needs to be my team working with my team and our contractors working with them on the ground. So.
Yeah. Along with Terry and Ken attended the ratepayers meeting here, and there's another one this Saturday at 3 o'clock at the Whangamata Club.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock, yeah. So for that, Rob Boston again is trying to bring things together and I think up there, and he's doing an excellent job with that.
He's a busy man, isn't he?
Busy man.
Busy man.
Is that the AGM though, isn't it? The Saturday?
No,
it's just the meeting.
Yeah, it's the meeting, yeah. And also attended the community patrol meeting, and as stated, they're only asking for small things. I had this morning had a meeting with the police station, with Will, and there's talk that we'll bring the community patrol car down to the station so that it can be accessed in there, which will make it secure for people's cars to be inside the building. And we're also working at how we can work better with them. The new community patrol liaison police constable will be Jack Ryder, who's a new member, as Greg will be going into CIB. So they'll be doing that. So there's that meeting, and
you also suggested earlier that the board might like to go for a visit to the police station after the next board meeting.
Yeah.
Perhaps if we just pencil that in, Jennifer, that after the next board meeting, see if we can get an invite for us to go along and watch have a look at the CCTV camera and see how it operates.
It's a very good system that has gone in there, and I think it would be worthwhile this board seeing how it works from there.
For those who are available and interested, we'll do that after the next board meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Gary, anything you want to
Well, other than the three waters seems to be creating passion within the community. I've had a lot of people contact me, and we'll just see how 24th of August progresses and where we go from there.
Okay, well, thank you. So do we need to resolve those? Okay, I'll move the members' report, seconded by Kate on those votes. So aye, Ms. Carey, meeting finished. Thanks. And now there's some light lunch if anyone is before we get to the workshop.